Hello and welcome everyone to our latest MOOC session. Which will have the topic Tricentis Cloud Repository. Today I'm your host, József Szendrődi. I'm working as a training consultant, and I'm happy to have here with me Arlindo Lima. Arlindo Lima is our dedicated product owner for the cloud here at Tricentis, and he brings a lot of cloud experience from previous companies and loves how the cloud has the power to simplify business problems and empower customers to accelerate their innovation. As you know, we have our housekeeping rules and we are going to go through them. Sorry for those who have heard it many times. As you know, if you have any questions, please use the question box. And you might know it, these questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. But please, I encourage everybody to ask these questions because we will try our best to answer all of your questions. As you might have noticed, everybody is muted. This is for cautions. If everybody could talk at the same time, it could get really confusing. For past recordings, please visit the website shown on screen, and don't worry if you don't have the time to watch this MOOC fully, this will be also included. The structure of the MOOC session will be the same. First, we will talk about concepts, about theory, how you should imagine the cloud repository, and then we will have a short demonstration, which will show more how it works. And after that, we will have our Q&A session, which will, of course, include questions and hopefully lots of answers.
Thank you, József. Hi, everyone. Today we'll start with a short story and why we built Tricentis Cloud Repository, which we usually call just TCR. Then, what is a Tricentis Cloud Repository? So a high-level explanation in easy-to-understand terms. Then, architecture deep dive plus what we're doing in terms of security, a short demo, then benefits of TCR, so how to convince your manager to go to the cloud, where we will talk about cloud CI/CD integration such as Azure DevOps and cost effectiveness. Then why testers and developers prefer TCRs, where we talk about some of the feedback we've been collecting from our users. Should your organization go to the cloud? Here we'll give you some questions to help your organization decide whether TCR is the right option. And finally, how can your organization try TCR? So let me start with this quote. Without a Tricentis Cloud Repository, which I'll call TCR from now on, we wouldn't have been able to collaborate and be as fast as we were. TCR changed the way the developers and testers work together to not only communicate better, but to empower them to co-create software at speed. Again, empower developers and testers to co-create software at speed. So these words were told to me by Georg, product manager at Tricentis for robotic process automation. For you to understand why Georg said this and how TCR helped and continues to help Georg and his team, let me tell you the story of how Tricentis RPA started. So customers have always used Tricentis Tosca to automate not only tests, but also business processes, right? Tosca watches the user perform some task, and then the user can automate that task, that business process, making it faster and eliminating human error. So this isn't new. Customers have always done this, so at Tricentis, we decided we might as well help them by releasing a dedicated RPA tool. In the beginning, the RPA team had only 4 people. Georg, the product manager, Mike, the all-powerful developer that every product manager wanted to have in his team, Pavel, the user experience / user interface expert, and Lan, the tester, right? She was the testing expert. This looks like a simple team. It is a small setup, but the team was highly distributed. They were in completely different time zones. The PM and the UX expert were in Austria, Lan, the testing expert, in Australia, and the developer was what people call nowadays a digital nomad, right? Continuously traveling while working. But mostly he was around New Zealand, so as you can see, it was an interesting team. Now, for Tosca to work in a multi-user setup like this one, it needs a centralized database that everyone can access and where the test cases and all other testing objects are stored. We call this centralized database the common repository. In the beginning, the decision was to use an on-premises common repository located in Austria. After all, that's where Tricentis servers were. But as the team started using the database, they started to have some challenges. Having everyone that was not in Austria connect through a direct database connection to a database server located in Austria, which also meant using a VPN, revealed not to be optimal. It was slow, and this led to a cumbersome collaboration between the tester and the developer. So the tester many times needed the developer's input for the automated tests, or they wanted to collaborate on test cases that were failing, and moving the database closer to Australia or New Zealand, for example, would also not solve the problem, as the Austrian team also needed to see and check tests and test results. Another drawback was that being a digital nomad, you never know exactly how the internet connection will be the following day, wherever you are. In some places it's good, in others it's really bad, and connecting through a VPN on a really bad connection, well, it only makes it worse. So, looking for a better alternative, the RPA team started using a Tricentis cloud repository, and they told me it was like night and day. And I believe them. The access to the centralized database, the common repository, although it continued secure, it was simplified. They could access it with a constant level of service from anywhere, right? So this made the team collaborate, communicate more, develop with better quality, and made it easy to scale the team, right? So as Tricentis RPA started to gain more and more traction, 3 new agile teams were added to the developments of the product, 1 in Austria and 2 in Vietnam. With the cloud repository, the handover was very, very simple. The 3 new teams were added to the cloud repositories. Lan, the original tester, did the walkthrough of the model of the automated tests that she had built, and that was it. The new teams were productive nearly starting from day one, right? So simple handover and simple access when new team members join the project. And now, with the 3 agile teams, even with around 20 people working together, collaboration continues as high and agile as before. There are sprint review meetings just focused on the tests, where team members share the automated test cases and requirements they wrote per user story, and they run it in the meeting itself as a demo. And many times, if a test fails, they troubleshoot it and try to fix it in the spot, right? So real-time collaboration, right? In the cloud, everyone has access to the test cases and everyone collaborates. So the cloud changed the way the team worked, and as Georg said it empowered the developers and testers to co-create software and speed. And this is the power of the cloud, this agility, this quality software at speed, this not having to worry about infrastructure and focusing on the more important developer and tester challenges that we want to bring to all Tricentis, to all Tosca users with our Tricentis Cloud repository offering. And in the end, going to the clouds is also tied to Tricentis' ultimate goal of democratizing continuous testing. We want to bring the power of continuous testing and testing automation to everyone, right? Make it simple and fast for every tester to do test automation. Not only technical automation engineers, everyone. That's our guiding principle. Now, before I explain what benefits Tricentis Cloud repositories will bring to you as a tester and how to help you choose whether you should go to the cloud, let me explain what Tricentis Cloud repositories are, right? So on-premises, Tosca Commander, which is the client software where you manage and create your tests, connects to a database via a direct database connection, which works well for a single site. So what we're doing now is making it easy to bring the power of Tosca Commander to multiple sites. The common repository where all the test artifacts, logs of your test runs, etc. are stored is now located in the cloud. So no more direct database connection. Tosca Commander now connects to the common repository via HTTPS. So no special ports your infrastructure team needs to open. And wherever you are located, no matter if the company is in the US and there is a testing department in India and another one in Europe, all testers will be able to connect to the repository via HTTPS. So no more VPN needed. So in summary, what is in the cloud is the database. You need to install Tosca Commander in your laptop, in your testing machines, but Tosca Commander will be storing all the test data that is created and generated in cloud databases instead of a database your infrastructure team needed to provide and maintain. So simple. Deepening more into our cloud architecture, when a customer accesses our cloud, she will be redirected to the nearest endpoint or proxy. So let's assume it's a customer accessing from the United States. So she will be accessing the United States proxy. The request, which can be, for example, a checkout or update all from Tosca Commander, what we usually call team tasks, is then sent to our microservices container orchestrator layer that runs the Tricentis Cloud Repository's microservices. So for you to have an idea, these microservices are, for example, a service that maps which specific databases a customer has access to, a service that takes care of authentication and authorization of users, email services for sending emails when the cloud administrator invites a new user, or for instance, backup services. So many of our services run in this layer. And this microservices layer will then process the team task and access the correct database where the customer data is stored. One note is that all the databases, and actually the microservices layer as well, are located in Europe, Netherlands. Additionally, the databases are a version of Microsoft SQL Server, so no Oracle or DB2 support for the Cloud Common Repository. So after the services compute which data should be sent to the user or to Tosca Commander, then in order to accelerate the communication between the database and Tosca Commander, what the Tricentis Cloud Repository does is create a temporary blob storage near to where the customer is. So in this case, it would be in the United States. So all the communication between the database and the blob storage is done through Azure's internal high-speed network, and then Tosca Commander will only have to communicate directly with the blob storage that is close to where Tosca Commander is, right? In order to get the update all or checkout data. This way, even though the database is not located in the United States, we have been able to optimize the performance of these operations. Another important information is that our Tricentis Cloud Repository infrastructure is hosted on Microsoft Azure. So we have partnered with Microsoft Azure's team to ensure that our architecture is able to support the testing of your most critical applications and systems. So from your core SAP systems to critical web and mobile applications. And how do we support testing of critical applications? Well, through a high availability architecture. Our high availability is based on three fundamental system design principles. A redundant architecture for every TCR component, from the database where your test artifacts are stored to the microservices layer that Tosca Commander uses to communicate with the cloud. So not only are the components replicated, but the replicas are geographically distributed, right? So hundreds of kilometers, miles away from each other to make sure that you are not affected even in the case of a complete regional outage or a disaster in which a data center isn't recoverable. So this means that all our infrastructure located in the Netherlands has a standby replica in Ireland, Europe. Which brings us to the second principle. There is no single point of failure. There is no single component whose malfunction will cause a complete system failure. And the third principle is that we use automated failure detection and response to make sure component failures are detected on time and dealt with accordingly. What this means for you and the organization is that you'll easily be able to have a high available, continuously operating Tosca environment that is resilient to unplanned failures and has no downtime or performance degradation during maintenance and backup operations. So you will have all of this without having to worry about the complexity that is hidden behind the scenes. And what about security? How secure is the cloud? That is the first question we always get whenever a customer wants to go to the cloud. Well, Tricentis takes data security and privacy very seriously and believes its security controls are appropriate for the environment in which it operates. While it's true that without a non-disclosure agreement in place, we cannot expose too much detail around our practices, to give you a little bit of confidence on how we secure the data entrusted to us, I can tell you that with Tricentis Cloud repositories, we have database isolation. So each tenant's data, that is the data of each company, is isolated and remains invisible to other tenants by using different databases for each project. So there are no shared databases. Your databases will only be yours. Additionally, with our resources separation, we can stop abuses of a specific tenant without affecting other tenants, right? And I might say that another important consideration is that it is not possible to access the databases without going through our authentication services. So your databases are not exposed to the internet. The traffic between the local Tosca commander and the cloud databases is encrypted. So it uses standard HTTPS, so no additional ports need to be open on your sides. And the data in the database is encrypted at rest with block level encryption using AES 256, right? So on top of that, the encryption key is stored using a FIPS level 2 validated hardware security model, and the keys are periodically rotated every 90 days. So additionally, user authentication. All communication between Tosca Commander and the database needs a mandatory authentication and authorization by using Azure Active Directory integration. So this includes OpenID Connect and OAuth 2.0. On top of that, users will need a complex password, and there is a sophisticated strategy to lock accounts in the likelihood that there is an attack. As previously mentioned, Tricentis Cloud Repository physical infrastructure is hosted within Microsoft Azure's secure and certified data centers. So these data centers have multiple layers of operational and physical security to ensure the integrity and safety of data. So they are manned 24/7, 365 days a year, and include intrusion detection devices, right? And we also know that recurrent risk assessments to ensure compliance with dozens of industry standards are held periodically. Secure development practices. So at Tricentis, every change in the Tosca source code must pass a formal set of quality gates and is accompanied by a defined process that ensures oversight and management, such as, for example, all commits need to be peer reviewed. Additionally, all Tosca code is subject to a static code analysis that checks if set guidelines are fulfilled and that no security leaks have been introduced, as identified by the Open Web Application Security Project, OWASP. Things such as SQL injection, hard-coded passwords, or even outdated usage of encryption libraries. And we have other controls in place, such as, for instance, open source components are always scanned for vulnerabilities. We also have real-time logging and monitoring of everything that we have. So logins, errors, performance, availability, anomalous activities. And in addition, Tricentis uses a third-party SIEM tool for log analytics, alerting, intrusion detection. So we are safeguarding your data against threats, and this also enables us to make better data-driven security decisions. In terms of antivirus, malware, and firewall protection, all our infrastructure is updated to keep out malware, viruses, ransomware, and the latest OS security updates are installed regularly, and there are firewalls in place to protect your data with no business interruption or effort on your part. There is also dedicated security personnel within Tricentis who are responsible for security vulnerability watch. And any third-party vendor risk is identified, managed, and risk assessments are performed annually, and security programs are updated based on the results of the assessments. Our cloud operations are also secure, so all personnel with access to the cloud backend needs two-factor authentication, inventories are maintained, and customer data is internally classified as confidential. So, one more thing, Tricentis disaster recovery covers server and database crashes, so prevents against data loss and corruption, and even Azure system and network failures. So all your data is backed up every 10 minutes, and restores can be performed on the disaster scenarios, right? So Tricentis can even recover if an entire Azure region goes down, as all our infrastructure is replicated. And finally, GDPR. So GDPR is the new data protection law, requires companies to be more transparent about how they collect and use personal information, which in theory will promote a more responsible use of data. And this is something that Tricentis has been committed to since it was founded. So Tricentis as a company is GDPR compliant, and you can take advantage of Tricentis cloud repositories to meet your GDPR obligations. Anyway, as a continuous testing solution, we know that Tricentis does not process any personal data, as customers are not allowed to put test data in, are only allowed to put test data in our environment. But however, when production data needs to be used, customers can always leverage our TDM platform, so test data management platform, to provide compliant test data on demand with very intuitive extraction wizards that mask data irreversibly and deterministically, as well as they support synthetic test data generation in case you need it. So enough talk. I know all of you want to see how it looks like, so let me show it to you. And after the demo, I will explain what benefits Tricentis Cloud Repositories will bring to you as a tester and how to help you choose whether you should go to the cloud. Okay, I would go to the demonstration. Okay, so this is Tosca Commander, as you know it. So this is where you create your test cases, and this is the part that is installed in your laptop, in your machines, right? So this hasn't changed. The team has made big efforts in order to make sure that you as a tester, you don't need to learn a new technology, right? So you will be working with Tosca Commander as before. So what has changed? Now when you want to create a new project, maybe you have already seen it, you now have one new option. So before, you would only be able to choose the database to which you would connect, and you would need a direct database, the connection string. Now you have a new option, Tricentis Cloud Repository. So in the Tricentis Cloud Repository, in order for you to be able to see the projects that are in your cloud and to be able to create new projects, you will have to log in with your account. So let's log in. You have here a link. So I'm Minka. And I'll also add my password. And I'm logging into the space of Tricentis Cloud Repository of my company. And now that I've logged in, I am now able to see the list of projects that I have access to. Right? So these projects have already been created, maybe by someone else, maybe by me. If you want to create a new project, you obviously just remove the use existing repository and you give it a new name. And in 1 minute, you will have a new project where everyone will be able to start collaborating. But for this case, let's for instance say that I want to start collaborating on an existing project. So for instance, the insurance portal. I can give a name for the name that I want the workspace to have. So when we create a new workspace, what you're saying is that I want to bring the whatever is in my common repository locally to my laptop, and I will then start working on top of those changes, right? So I will have the performance of working in my laptop, and when I'm ready to share my changes with my team, or whenever I want to fetch the changes of my team, I will do an update, I will do a check-in, a checkout, so the same experience as before. So let's create a workspace based on an insurance portal project that is already in the cloud, where I'm already collaborating with my team. And meanwhile, this will take less than a minute. Let me show you where you can see your projects in the cloud. So something new that we added with the cloud is a cloud portal. So this is something that you will have access to. Just as before, you will be able to log in with your account, and in this cloud portal, you will be able to see the projects that your company has, and you will also be able to manage users. So if you come to the list of projects, here you see all the projects that have been created, who has created them, when they were created. And the other function is the user management. Here you can see who are the users that are in your company, right? So who is a user, who is an administrator. If you are an administrator, it's very easy to invite new users, so you can just copy paste a list of emails, for instance from Excel, and all these users will receive an email in order to access your cloud and to create an account. So very simple. And back to Tosca Commander, as you can see, we have now created a workspace locally, and we would, just as a normal workspace on premises, you would now be able to check in whatever you need to work on, and business as usual. So simple experience, just works, and you won't have to change the workflow of how you're used to work. The advantage is just that you will be using a database in the cloud and not in your own infrastructure. So now that you've seen how Tricentis Cloud Repositories looks like and you've seen it in action, what benefits will your organization have? Let me start by the benefits you are going to sell to your manager. And who doesn't want to bring new ideas to their managers, right? So when everyone looks back, they will see you as the person that had that brilliant cloud idea that accelerated your company's testing and the speed that it develops applications. So what will you gain with the cloud? Worry-free scaling and operations. Many of our customers tell us they have difficulty on how to set up their database infrastructure for scalability and to enable global distributed teams. Now with TCR, you can access the common repository from wherever and easily add new team members to scale your testing efforts quickly, right? And this makes collaboration easier and allows you to test at the speed of your developments. If you have a team in India, another in the United States, doesn't matter. You no longer need to poke holes in your company's firewall and connect via VPN to the database, which can be slow. On top of that, you will have Tricentis engineers that have the experience of dozens of projects managing the infrastructure for you. So things like disk space, outages, unavailability of the database updates and upgrades, Tricentis will take care of all of that for you. Then, cloud CI/CD pipelines. Some of our customers are starting to move their continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines to the cloud with, for instance, Microsoft VSTS, now called Azure DevOps, or GitLab. And many of these customers, because of that, favor a tool chain that is cloud-based or easy to deploy in the cloud. Right? Just one thing, note that Tosca on premises can anyway integrate with any CI/CD pipeline, even clouds, but our customers that are moving to the cloud tell us they prefer a cloud-based solution. So for example, a typical customer setup would be using Azure pipelines as the CI system, which is also something we use internally, right? So how we do it is the code is developed, built, some unit tests are run by the dev team, and then they are put in the Azure pipelines release pipeline, right? Then what happens is that this is deployed to our test environment, and then there is a smoke test step that runs Tosca tests. And these tests run against VM, and obviously this VM, because Azure DevOps is in the cloud, needs to be publicly accessible, and it will need to have Tosca Commander installed there. And in our case, it's Tosca Commander using Tricentis Cloud Repository, plus there is a Microsoft Azure DevOps agent that you need to install in that VM. Then there is a PowerShell script that you will need to write that uploads the test results from the test results files that we get from Tosca Commander back into Azure Test Plan, so that the team can quickly see the test results from inside Azure DevOps. So with the cloud database, this kind of integration will be easier. Finally, cost savings. After all, cost effectiveness is one of the main reasons why IT companies are moving to the cloud. When IT comes to the cost your organization will be saving, this will very much depend on your IT setups, right? So I know that some companies have different deals with data center providers or with Microsoft, so we cannot really give you an average number on how much you would save, but I can tell you what factors we used internally to calculate our savings when we moved our internal Tricentis RPA project to the cloud. So these were the elements that we internally took into account when putting together our cloud versus on-premises ROI calculation. So on-premises, Tricentis, we don't have our own data center, so we rent space from a partner data center, and in the price, this is already included the energy, connectivity, climatization, physical security of the data center, so all of that. And additionally, we rent space in 2 locations, as just like in the cloud, we want to have geographical redundancy. Then there is the hardware for the 2 database servers, right? So one for each geographical redundant region, plus some local disk space. And by the way, we replace more or less every 3 years our hardware, right? So at Tricentis, that's how we calculate the depreciation. Then we have the Windows server costs for 2 servers, which also includes the maintenance, which is usually 20% per year, the Microsoft SQL Server Enterprise license for the 2 database servers, again, plus maintenance, and we need to use the Enterprise Edition as geographical redundancy is only available on the Enterprise Edition of SQL Server. So Standard and Express editions don't offer this. Then we have our own backup server on Tricentis premises, so outside of the data center we rent, and this also includes the backup software that basically usually comes for free when you also buy the hardware. And again, we change our backup server every 3 years. One more thing, we have network costs, which includes managed security, firewall, etc. And we usually pay this per port. And obviously you have the personnel costs. So our IT personnel has to operate many servers at the same time. So we don't have dedicated people to operate these 2 database servers. But our system administrators who take care of things such as security updates, Windows patching, etc., typically dedicate no more than 1 hour per server per month. Our database administrators spend a little bit more per database server, but again, not much, let's say 4 hours per server per month. And finally, we have a Microsoft partner database specialist services firm that helps us whenever there are more specific problems with the database. And these are consultants that charges around 1,000 euros per month, and we typically, in 1 year, we book them 10 days, not more. So these are the costs that we Tricentis have with the database server, right? So again, this setup, obviously it's not used to run just one database. In our case, we run 25 databases on this setup. I know that some companies would run 20, some less, some more. We run 25 databases with this setup. So from this number, we can get an average cost per database. And now I won't go into details of how much you would pay with TCR, as the prices will change according to how many users you will have. But I can tell you that for our smallest setup in TCR, which includes 5 projects, and projects are databases, so it includes 5 databases, we are saving around 31%, right? Our break-even was only in 8 months. And that's how much money we are saving when developing our robotic process automation tool. And RPA is growing. It will soon start using more and more databases, so savings will keep multiplying. And you can now imagine how these savings will apply when you extend TCR to test not only 1 or 2 applications, but to really test all your application portfolio. So huge gains. Now, one thing to have in notion is that it's true that the costs we calculated, we presented here, might not reflect exactly what your organization will save. So in order to have an idea of how much your on-premises infrastructure is costing you, I recommend that you have a look at Azure or AWS total cost of ownership calculators. And if your organization has a Gartner or Forrester subscription, I know that they also offer some kind of on-premises infrastructure cost analysis tools, right? Now, back to the benefits for you in your day-to-day life. The benefits that the cloud gives you are not only for your organization, they are also for you as a tester, right? We have been talking with developers, with testers that are using Tricentis Cloud Repository, and these are the reasons they told us why they prefer it over the on-premises version. So they told us that before, in order to create a new project, it always took days, weeks, and in some cases, even longer, right? Because IT takes some time to provision the database. And tester told us that this led to really minimizing the number of projects that they had created for Tosca, which meant that they ended up putting everything in one database, in a single database. And I mean, who would want to go through the long process of requesting one more database? So I totally understand it. And what happens with the cloud is that now creating a new database is done in just 1 minute. We've seen some of the users that are already using the cloud doing some more splitting of the testing projects. And this translates in much more performant Tosca operations. So your update tools will be a breeze as the size of the data transferred is much smaller. And this fast creation of projects is extended to not only the creation of normal projects, but also to playground multi-user repositories. So users told us that this is something that they can do now. So to quickly test something, they can just create a new project, and this would be unimaginable before. Another benefit reported by testers that work with a bigger number of projects is that with TCR, it's very easy to identify the project you want to work with. So now there are real names and owners for each project. And before, as you know, there was just a connection string. And on top of that, this connection string was given to you by your IT department, so it never had a meaningful name. So nowadays you can give it a meaningful name, you know who is the owner of the project, so these projects with better names make multitasking much easier. Another big change is in the upgrades. In the cloud, to upgrade from version 12.0 to 12.1, for example, you just need to install in your laptop the new version of Tosca Commander, right? So as long as there are no breaking changes in the data model, and in the cloud there rarely are, your cloud projects are basically version independent. So expect very easy and quick upgrades. Then developers and testers have been telling us that they love being able to work from anywhere and from many computers. So no need to use your special work computer that needs to have VPN configured. You can just do home office from anywhere. You have a laptop and you've installed Tosca Commander. So very simple. Finally, something small but that makes a difference. Our users have been telling us that they love that everything works the same in the cloud as it did on-prem, as I've already shown you before in the demo. So there really is no need to learn a new technology or a new interface. It's still the Tosca you know. So now that you've seen a little bit of what TCR can give you and your organization, should you opt for a Tosca cloud repository or use Tosca on premises? So some guideline questions to help your organization in this choice are: do you have more than one user, more than one location accessing your project? Do you want to have global access to your test automation projects? Do you want to remove database provisioning and maintenance overhead? Um, does your organization want to reduce your capital expenditure and move costs to operational expenditure? That is spending money over time versus upfront, which can help with cash flow. And do you favor cloud-friendly tools for cloud CI/CD? That is, do you want a tool chain that is cloud-based and easy to deploy in the cloud? If your answer is yes to one or more of these questions, it might make sense to jump on the cloud bandwagon, right? And now you might ask, TCR is just about the repository, the database where the test artifacts are stored. But what about the other features of the Tricentis continuous test platform, such as, for example, analytics, OSV, DEX, exploratory testing? Are they available for cloud customers? And the answer is yes. You can use them together with cloud repositories, but these components would need to be installed on premises. So even on premises, we've made them integrate perfectly with cloud repositories, but they are not provided on the cloud. And I can tell you that the bulk of the maintenance effort is in the database, so not on the other server components, as they basically need no maintenance. Nonetheless, it is in our roadmap to start migrating more and more components to the cloud. So stay tuned. And to finish, now that you know what Tricentis cloud repositories are, how can you try them, right? How can you try the Tricentis cloud repository? And while at the moment there is no self-service way to do this, you can ask for a 1-month trial of TCR. And the best way to do it would be to reach out to your customer success manager, to Tricentis support, or to your Tricentis partner, as they can explain you better how you can try the TCR. Another option is to just use the trial form in the Tricentis website. Just go to tricentis.com, search for TCR, you will find the Tricentis Cloud Repository webpage, and apply for the trial, right? So someone will reach out to you in a few days. Okay, so in conclusion, the cloud is already changing the way teams are working, and like Georg, my colleague at Product Management, said, it empowered the developers and testers to co-create software at speed. And again, it is this power of the cloud, this agility, this quality software at speed, this not having to worry about infrastructure and focusing just on the more important developer and testing challenges that we want to bring to all Tosca and Tricentis users with our Tricentis Cloud Repository offering. Thank you. I'll now pass it back to you, Josef.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for the detailed presentation. We have already gathered a couple of questions, so now I'm gonna get to the question section, and let me ask you the first question what we got. Can I work offline with Tricentis cloud repositories?
That's a good question. So yes, you can work offline. So basically, the Tosca commander that is installed in your laptop will just need the internet connection in order to get the initial changes. So to create the workspace for the first time and to do a check-in, to do a checkout, to do an update, only when you want to push your changes so that everyone can see them and when you want to bring the changes of your colleagues. But while you don't want to push your changes to the cloud, you will be able to work without an internet connection. Everything that you do will be saved, and when you have an internet connection again, all your changes will be pushed back to the cloud.
All right, thank you. Next question is coming. What size can my databases have?
That's a good question as well. So in the Tricentis Cloud repositories, you will have a number of databases that you can use, that you can create, and each of these databases can have a maximum of 40 gigabytes per database, right? So, and I can tell you that most of our customers don't have more than 5 gigabytes in their projects, although in some of our bigger customers, we do have some with 20, 25, but basically we wanted you to not have to worry about that, so you will have 40 gigabytes to use.
Okay, great answer. Now I have a more specific question, and it is, my company is already using Microsoft Azure for other applications. Can we have TCR in my Azure subscription?
So this architecture I showed here, the Tricentis Cloud Repository architecture, this is only offered as a managed service, right? So this is something that we offer to you out of the box. You cannot pick this and install it in your Azure subscription. So to do that, you can still use your own Microsoft Azure with Tosca Commander, but you would have to use the normal on-premises Tosca Commander. You will have to install it in your own Azure version, but this will still be the common on-premises Tosca Commander. This won't be the Tricentis Cloud Repositories architecture, as that one is only offered as a managed service.
Okay, since we are running out of time, I'm going to ask one last question, which is, can I move from on-premise to cloud?
So you can. So if you are already a Tosca on-premises customer, obviously you already have your projects. You can very easily bring whatever you have built back to into the cloud and start working there, right? So if your project is below 2 gigabytes, this is actually something you can do directly from Tosca Commander. There is an option to import TDB back into the cloud. If your workspace is bigger than 2 gigabytes, get in touch with our support team and we will be able to import your database, no matter the size, back into our cloud. So whatever you have done on premises, you will be able to have on the cloud, so you don't have to start from scratch. So very easily you can use whatever you have done.
All right, once again, thank you very much for the answers and for the great presentation. Because of time limit, guys, we have to close this MOOC, and now we're gonna go to the very last section of our MOOC session. Our next MOOC session will have the topic of interactive testing, and you can expect a full business cycle presentation. This will take place on the 20th of March 2019. But before you go, I would like to ask you that please complete the feedback forms. And there's one more new thing which I would like to mention, that our MOOC sessions will have a new name from the 8th of May 2019, and they will be called user tutorials. So in the future, please, in case you're interested on any of the future MOOC sessions, try to look for user tutorials. And our last slide for today. So in case you would like to get in contact with the support team, please write to support@tricentis.com. If it's the training team, then it's academy@tricentis.com. If you have any questions, then you can either visit our online manual at support.tricentis.com/community/manuals, or you can visit our knowledge base articles at www.support.tricentis.com. And as I mentioned at the beginning of our MOOC session, we have our previous MOOC recordings uploaded at www.tricentis.com/academy/MOOC. And of course, if you have any more specific questions, or if you would like to connect with other people who are using Tricentis Tosca, then visit the user community at usercommunity.tricentis.com. And thank you very much once again. Have a nice day.